is Tom Allen from City and State TV, and today I'm here with Evan Goldberg, the president of the New York State Trial Lawyers Association. Welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So I guess my first question is, what is the New York State Trial Lawyers Association? Can you tell us about it?
Well, as a trial law organization, we promote a safer and healthier society. We work every day to ensure that those who have been wrongfully injured are able to hold those who have injured them accountable. Too often, big companies, insurance companies seek to prioritize profit over safety, and we stand for the victims of negligence. Basically, those sorts of categories of people include consumers, those who have been injured maybe through faulty ignition switches manufactured by GM, construction laborers hurt on the job, victims of medical malpractice, those who have been wrongfully treated by their insurance companies. We make sure that everybody has equal access to justice. It's very important that justice be available to everybody, regardless of background or socioeconomic status. And we've found over the years in this country, in this state, that accountability is really the only effective tool against injurious self-conduct.
Gotcha. Well, great. Thank you. So we've heard a lot about Laverne's Law and the famous case of a woman from Brooklyn who died because her hospital never told her she had cancer. Can you explain what this law would do?
Well, there are hundreds of thousands of victims of medical malpractice who die every year through preventable medical errors. And Laverne Wilkinson was one of those people. She died because her doctors forgot to tell her that she had cancer. And when they did tell her she had cancer, it was too late to treat the cancer. But even more than that, it was also too late for her to even have a lawsuit. Strangely enough, her statute of limitations started to run before she knew she had cancer, and by the time she found out, it had already expired. She had 3 children, one of whom had special needs, requires lifelong care, and that case was over before it started. So the unfairness of that is self-evident. Most states, 44 states across the country, have statutes of limitations starting from the date of discovery of the malpractice rather than from the date of the treatment itself. And that makes sense. And Laverne's Law would seek to bring us up to those other states and what they're doing. And it's something that passed the Assembly in the last legislative session. The governor said he would support it. Many senators co-sponsored it and said they were in support of it. So we're really hoping that this year it'll pass.
Great. You've also done a lot of advocacy for hurricane victims. Last session you ran ads calling on Albany to pass the Fair Claim Settlement Act. What is that? Can you explain that?
Well, despite record profits, insurance companies are still unfortunately engaging in deceptive practices, delaying and denying claims, and doing a lot of things to keep policyholders and claimants from getting the compensation that they're entitled to under the law. We've seen it a lot with Hurricane Sandy and different storms that have occurred, where insurance companies might say, well, to one owner, your damage, you only have flood damage, but your damage was caused flood coverage, but your damage was caused by wind. While saying to the next door neighbor, you have wind coverage, but your damage was caused by a flood. It's a 3-card Monte game that really has to stop, because there are people still out of their homes as a result of that storm. People who haven't received the funds necessary to rebuild their lives. It's been people's lives really matter. They pay their premiums in a timely way, and they deserve to get the benefits of those premiums in time. And there's just so many instances of this occurring. And the thing to remember is that there's no incentive for the insurance company not to engage in these practices right now. They can hold on to money for years, and they do. And people forget about it. They'll go to court and they never get their legal fees back. So there's no incentive for the insurance company to timely pay a claim. The Fair Claim Settlement Act would restore some equality and put everybody on a level playing field so that the insurance companies know that they need to treat policyholders fairly.
Okay. And where does that stand?
Well, we're hoping to bring it up in the next legislative session and to really move forward with that.
Great. And every year it feels like there's a big fight over the scaffold safety law. We've seen so many construction accidents this year in New York City. So what is causing that?
Well, construction, of course, is a very hazardous activity. It's one of the most hazardous activities that there can be in this country, and the fact that there are so many accidents shows that the problem exists. The scaffold safety law is something that New York should be very proud of. It's been in the books for 100 years. It's protected workers for a century from elevation-related hazards, either working at tremendous heights or working below and having protection from things falling onto them. And it's, those who would seek to reform the law want to take away those protections and put, again, profit over safety. That's something we see time and time again with respect to all these measures. So we vigorously defend the scaffold safety law. There's a coalition of trade organizations and worker safety groups and public action groups that have all come on board and know that these workers' lives matter. They really need to be protected. People take the floors under their feet and the ceilings above their head for granted, but there are real people who are going out there and they have families, and when their lives are destroyed, somebody's got to pick up the tab. And the scaffold safety law is in place to make sure that contractors and owners know that they need to provide these protections, or they're going to be held accountable under the law. And if you take that scaffold safety law away, you're going to see even more deaths.
Interesting. We've seen the Trial Lawyers Association doing a lot of work to end distracted driving. Could you explain that?
Well, one of our colleagues, Joel Feldman from Philadelphia, he lost his daughter tragically in a motor vehicle accident when the driver was driving while texting. It's a story that we see all too often these days. And distracted driving, of course, isn't just texting. It could be eating a sandwich, it could be fiddling with the radio, it could be doing anything at all. As trial lawyers, we see the effects of this. We have a unique responsibility to share what we learn. And we see the effects of this in our waiting rooms and in the courtrooms. We see lives turned upside down through distracted driving, and we think it's our responsibility to go into the communities, we're going into the high schools, and we're trying to get people to really understand the increased risks that go along with distracted driving, and hopefully have the dialogue make a difference.
Great. No, great. Every once in a while, people talk about changing New York's wrongful death statute. Can you explain that and why that comes up?
Well, the wrongful death statute in New York is antiquated and unfair. It was enacted in 1847 and it hasn't been changed since. Under the current law, a company, a person can kill a child, an elderly person, a disabled person, somebody who's unemployed, and not be accountable for the emotional grief that they cause the family. Imagine trying to tell that to a parent of a 10-year-old mowed down in a crosswalk by a drunk driver, that their case is essentially worthless because there wasn't pain and suffering involved in it. It's just a tragic circumstance that me and my colleagues have had to endure time and time again. We talk to these parents, if your father, your mother is in a nursing home and gets killed through negligence, really, and there's no economic loss, there's really much of a case. And it's, people are more than the paycheck they bring home. And that's what the law needs to recognize. Many other states allow for emotional grief and anguish as part of the lawsuit, and New York does not. And it's fundamentally unfair, and it's quite frankly dehumanizing. We're really hoping the legislature will take a cold, hard look at this issue and restore some dignity to the families of those who have tragically had loved ones taken from them.
Great, well, thank you. So why did you become a lawyer?
Well, as a third-generation lawyer, my grandfather was a lawyer in the Great Depression, and my father was a Supreme Court justice in New York State. Many assumed I would just be steered towards the law because of my family, but it was really more that I developed a love of the law. When I was a teenager, I would watch movies such as To Kill a Mockingbird, and I would observe the history of leaders who fought for justice and societal equality, and I saw early on the important role of the trial lawyer in advocating for justice and equality among all, and it's something that I chose to dedicate my life towards, and I've never looked back. And my father approved, of course.
I'm sure. And why did you assume the presidency of New York State Trial Lawyers Association?
Well, as I said, our mission is to promote a safer and healthier society. It's something I deeply believe in. Lawyers have had a very important role over the years in making sure that negligent conduct is addressed and corrected. Many of the safety initiatives that we take for granted are there because lawyers stood up for the little guy, and lawyers made a difference. And that's something that I've always wanted to do. When I'm in the courtroom, when I'm fighting for a client's case, it's a microcosm of America to me, where all thoughtful discourse is entertained, the truth is sought, and justice is done.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming in today.
You're welcome.